for health education in Tijuana. There were no media campaigns in Tijuana. And in fact, I had been to Tijuana during this time period and seen that indeed you could still smoke in public buildings. And this was very different from the, the, the behavior in San Diego where you could not smoke in public buildings. Now, let me share with you how this might play out. So how might these different levels interact with each other? So in the United States, we have a policy. In when I say United States, really what I'm referring to is California. We have a policy that you can't smoke in restaurants. So by not being able to smoke in a restaurant at a society or policy level, it allows the restaurant to then kick you out if you start smoking. And that didn't happen very often. I mean, it wasn't normally the restaurant that enforced the no smoking policy. On the one hand, it was embarrassing for smokers to smoke in a place where they weren't wanted. And it became embarrassing because really what happened was it gave individuals at the local level a green light, so to speak, to criticize smokers for smoking. And so if I'm at a restaurant, a no smoking restaurant, I don't wait for the owner of the restaurant to come and tell the person that they can't smoke there. What I start doing is coughing out loud and pretending like it's a real annoyance. And so that happens a lot. And so that happens in California. Now, there's a lot of cross-border dialogue between San Diego and Tijuana, and so in many circumstances, people in San Diego would be going to Tijuana to eat at a restaurant. So, say for example, I'm a citizen of San Diego, and I'm going to go to Tijuana to eat fish tacos. And so I'm used to, in San Diego, and I'm a non-smoker, so I'm used to eating at restaurants where smoking is not allowed. And I've actually come to appreciate and enjoy the environment where there's no cigarette smoke. Now I go to Tijuana, let's say I go to Avenida Revolucion in Tijuana, where all of the, that's where all of the, most of the tourists would go. And somebody is standing out on the side of the road trying to invite me into their restaurant. And there is no formal policy at this time in Tijuana to prohibit smoking in public buildings and in restaurants. And so I say to the to the guy standing on the side of the road, is there no smoking in your restaurant? And he says, no, not at all. No, you can smoke all you want in here. And so I say, no, thank you. And I go and I move on because I'm looking for a restaurant that doesn't allow smoking. And as that happens more and more and more and more, restaurants, so kind of the local or community level, based on what individuals are saying, restaurants start to recognize that maybe this is an important policy. So they start to initiate smoking bans, not government initiated, but restaurant initiated smoking bans. And so over time, I saw a change to where restaurants started advertising no smoking signs and no smoking seating and eventually smoking bans. And enough restaurants got together and influenced local government to where the local government considered initiating a policy. So this is the perfect example of these hierarchical or cascading contingencies. So the purpose of this study was to test to see if there was different effects in Tijuana versus Guadalajara, and what you're going to see here is that indeed that was true. And so this is daily environmental tobacco smoke exposure, or basically secondhand smoke exposure, and what you see in both of these graphs for males and for females is that individuals in San Diego, which would be the smallest bars, represent the lowest amount of secondhand smoke. People in Tijuana, the second lowest amount, and people in Guadalajara, the most secondhand smoke exposure. And this is exactly what you would expect based on the behavioral ecological model and the effects of the California Tobacco Control Program, given that Guadalajara was so far away and there was not day-to-day interactions between the two cities. Home smoking bans. So in California, in San Diego, that is, greater percentages report home smoking bans across the board at home and at workplace. spouses, family members, and friends do not tolerate smoking. So again, people in San Diego report that their spouses, family, and friends do not tolerate smoking at greater levels than people in Tijuana, but again, greater levels than what's being reported in Guadalajara. Social criticism in public places. This one's a very interesting question. So very likely to be criticized for smoking inside public places. People in San Diego report greater likelihood of being criticized at work, restaurants, transportation, schools, and health centers is a funny one, but report greater levels of potential criticism than in Tijuana, but again, much greater than in Guadalajara. Health centers, probably all of those are high, and that's probably the result of most people at health centers not approving of smoking. Again, people in San Diego are more supportive of laws prohibiting smoking in public places, workplaces, restaurants, public transportation, schools, than in Tijuana, than in Guadalajara. So the take-home message is that, in fact, and what's interesting is that there was no California tobacco control program or the equivalent in Tijuana at this time. And so what was happening was that the California culture was probably changing Mexico with respect to its tolerance of tobacco based on these cascading or interacting contingencies. That's really the essence of the behavioral ecological model. That's really what I wanted to share with you, to augment with these examples the reading that you that you read related to the behavioral ecological model.